Hello. Good afternoon. I hope that you are having a lovely day today. It's a bit dreary, some very unpleasant stuff going on in the world right now, but we're just going to ignore that for a few minutes and just focus on helping you in your business. So, yeah, good afternoon. If you're watching live, then just do say hi, that'd be amazing. And if you're in the group and watching it later on the replay, just give me a little hi or a hashtag replay. The more likes and hearts and things we get, the more everybody else in the group gets to see it. And this is now, of course, being distributed on my email list as well. So if you are not keen on hanging out in a Facebook group, but you still want to catch up with the business clinics every month, jump on the email list and you can catch all the details there. Hello. Oh, thank you, Tamsin. Just got back from the hairdresser this morning. I've had a lovely time in the salon, so just totally skiving this morning, which was great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So, what have we got for you today? Barriers to buying. So, this very familiar story for many a business owner, whereby you think you're doing all the things, and you've been doing all the things for such a long time. You've been marketing your little heart out and just working so hard, and nothing's happening. You're doing all the things you've heard the gurus say. You're really paying attention and really doing everything you possibly can, and it's just not connecting. For some reason, the inquiries just aren't coming in, or maybe they are and you're just getting loads of no's on your sales calls. So we're going to explore that today. I've got 5 main reasons I want to cover for you around why that might be happening, and I think those are really the main reasons which are going to help you dig a little bit deeper and find out what it is. And it's often just such a simple tweak that just helps make all the difference and get people getting in touch. So fingers crossed we can move you towards that today. So first thing I'll say is it's rarely the things we think it is. So as soon as we have that thought, gosh, my offer's just not selling at the moment, nobody's getting in touch, what's wrong? Our brain just goes straight to the more obvious explanations or the stories that we believe around why people might not be buying. And more often than not, that is price. We often think it's the money side of things and we start blaming that. Or we think it's us and that our service isn't good enough and that nobody wants us or what we're offering. And 99% of the time, those things are not true at all. So it is very rarely price, very rarely that nobody wants our service. Of course, those things can be a bit of an issue if you completely misprice the service for your target market, or if you completely got this service that's just absolutely not going to connect with anybody, then maybe that's true. But that's really the exception. It's very rare that happens. And on the price side of things, I always say to clients, like, go out there and just see what sort of prices other people are charging for things in your niche. And you'll probably prove to yourself that price really isn't the issue, because it's possible to sell most things at most price points. So putting that one aside, what else might be going on? First thing is that you are delivering wonderful messaging and really connecting nicely with an audience, but it's not the right audience. So your audience, the people that are following you at the moment, it isn't quite the right ideal client for what you are selling, or that audience is not quite large enough, because marketing is such a numbers game in many ways. Within your audience, at any given time, there are 2 or 3% of people that are actually ready to buy and looking to invest in the thing that you're offering. So 2 or 3%, that still leaves like 97% of the people that you're talking to not being quite in that mindset to buy at the moment. So as we increase our numbers, as we increase our audience, 2 or 3% becomes a much more significant number of people that might want to invest. So sometimes it's just a case of expanding that audience and growing it larger. That's not to say trying to be in all the places at once, but working on growing your audience in whatever medium or whatever social media channels or whatever actually really work for you. If it's not quite the right audience, I had this for a long time early in my business. I just hadn't quite realised at what point on their journey my ideal clients needed to be. So for one-to-ones, nowadays I tend to work very much with people who are a bit more established. They've been around for 2 or 3 years, and they've just kind of hit a bit of a plateau. Whereas early on, I hadn't established exactly what point my client needed to be at. So I was just trying to market to people at all the stages of their journey, and the right people just weren't quite hearing my message. So I hope that makes sense. But I was trying to just cover people who are brand new in business, people who have been around for 6 months and were starting to struggle, people who were 2 or 3 years in as well. But those 2 or 3 years in, people were like, well, why are you telling me all the obvious stuff? It didn't really make sense to them. So now when I'm talking about my one-to-one services for my mindset packages, I'm very much more clear that this is for people who've been around for a little while. They might be earning XYZ. This is the specific kind of problem that they are having at the moment. These are their specific struggles. So really important to get clear on what the specific struggles are for your audience. And when you do that, that very often just starts to really hit home with people a lot more. And they're like, it's me you're talking to. It's not, I love your advice, but actually it's me that you want to communicate with. So that's number one. Number two, it can just be that you're not selling your service enough. And this is probably one of the biggest things I come across, is that we've got a wonderful service, a wonderful offer, and it's fantastic and should absolutely be flying, but we might just put out 1 or 2 little posts quietly under the radar and kind of hope it hits home, but not really want to post anymore and just kind of hope it all goes away. I've learned now that there are several stages of selling a product or service, and there are people that will need to hear about your thing plenty of times before it will really connect with them, and they'll go, oh yeah, that thing I've been hearing about, that's actually what I need. So it might be that they need to hear about your offer 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 plus times for it to really hit home with them. So if you're just posting once or twice and it's disappeared, they're forgotten, it's gone. Whereas if you just keep on mentioning it, it feels to you like you're just going on about nothing else, and you're being so salesy and spammy and awful. And in your own mind, you're like, oh, I'm so sick of this. But for your audience, they're really not paying as much attention as you think. And they would much rather that you talked about your thing more often, so they can get more details about it, they can fill in the gaps and really work out whether it's for them. So I think that's quite a nice mindset one as well. It's sort of just shifting that mindset into, actually, I'm doing my audience a favour by talking about this thing more. I'm not being horrible and spammy and salesy and awful. So that can really, really help you to connect with them much better. There are people as well, in terms of buying psychology, who need that final push. They kind of need a deadline. They need that last minute pressure to make that decision. And it's not that you're forcing them into a decision by a deadline. It's more that the pressure just helps them to go, do I want to jump this way or that way? And without that pressure, they're quite happy to exist in limbo and not make the decision to take your thing up. So a bit of a deadline can really, really help. So that's number two, not mentioning things enough. So if you're one of those people that's holding back on selling your service at the moment, then be brave, be bold, get it out there more times, and I think you'll see more sales. It's definitely happened for me. Third one is that your clients don't really understand how your offer can benefit them. It's just not specific enough. So we kind of touched on this earlier in the audience thing. For your client who just jump in there and go, yeah, this is absolutely what I need right now, they need to know that you understand their problem in great depth. Now, you hear this talk of pain points, and what we don't want to do is go out there and just like prod those pain points and go, oh, this is happening in your life and this is so awful for you, and just make them feel awful. But it's important to acknowledge and empathise with their problems. It's really, really important to let them know that you get where they're at. And then it's important to show them the journey of transformation and where they can actually end up, specifically where they can end up. So when I was just in the early days marketing my therapy business, I used to be talking all the time about how I can help them live their best life and feel so much more confident and happy and wonderful. And I knew for me what those things meant. But things like saying live your best life, it doesn't kind of say to your potential client, look, if you come and work with me, you could be exactly here in a few weeks' time. This is exactly how life could look for you. So the more specific you can be in those outcomes and in exactly how you can help them, the better, because they will really emotionally connect with that. If you say live your best life, it's kind of an overused phrase, and a lot of people out there are offering a life upgrade, if you like, or to feel better, to improve things and feel more happy and relaxed. But actually, just being able to nail that down and say, okay, so what does, for my client who's experiencing this particular problem, what does the end result look like? What would life look like for them if I'd resolved that problem? Greg in this group has a wonderful headline on his LinkedIn profile. I think it's something like helping professional women drop 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And that is so specific. You know exactly what you're going to get if you work with Greg. So thumbs up, Greg. That's awesome. Really great headline there. And we can't all be as specific as something like £20, just using that as an example. But we can be a lot more descriptive about the changes they might see in their lives and how that might emotionally affect them and their families and everything else in life. So the more you can be tangible and specific around those things, the easier it will be for your audience to go, yeah, that is the exact thing I want to see in my life. Okay. Now that one, I think, is very often where I used to fall down on sales calls. Nowadays, I tend to make sure that my clients know through my messaging how my service can help them. But it used to be very much like, come and book a call with me, and then the call would be all about explaining the service and how it worked and what the outcomes would be. And I think at that point, I really didn't have that side of things dialed in and absolutely certain. And I knew that I could get them to a wonderful place and make amazing transformations for them, but I wasn't explaining that brilliantly to my clients. And it was only when I started being like, yeah, we can help you with this, and we're going to get you to exactly this point, that things started to fall into place. And I realised that's really, really difficult sometimes in therapy and in coaching. But it's one of those things to work on. If you need some help working on that side of things, I'm going to talk about the membership at the end of this call, just to allow you to understand how that could help you if you need some help with those sorts of things. So the fourth one, there are unanswered questions around your process or around their fears. So for many people, for all people, in fact, we would much rather stay in a problem and keep struggling with the thing that we're struggling with than we would take a leap of faith on something new, even if we thought that thing could help us. If there's some doubt around it, if there's some uncertainty around it, and if we're not quite confident that that is the right solution for us, we are so afraid of wasting things like time and money and losing face as well. That's a huge one. So what we do is we go into avoid mode if we don't quite understand something. We're like, just not quite sure that's the right thing. So it kind of sounds pretty good, but I think I'll leave it for now. And if you're getting that a lot on sales calls, then I think the chances are that maybe you haven't answered exactly what that transformation is for them and exactly what their fears are and what the process is. So the more your clients can understand about the journey that you're going to take them on and how it's all going to work, and the more you can kind of cut through those fears and help them see that actually it's all okay, nothing scary is going to happen, and it's just this and this and this, and this is how we get you to that end result, the more likely they are to think, oh yeah, that is fine for me, that's okay, that's something I can cope with. And particularly things like, for me, being a hypnotherapist, I think often there's a lot of, oh, what's that around hypnotherapy, and it feels to some people very, very out there, very woo, very, very scary, something they're not very familiar with. And just breaking down those barriers and saying, look, it's all about brain science and psychology and deep relaxation to help reinforce that. We're not going to do anything weird and wonderful. That just helps people to feel more at peace in their minds about this process, and they can see that it's okay. Likewise, just making sure that they really can trust you and know that you are somebody who's safe to be working with, is really, really important. So the more that you can help build up that trust through your marketing messages, the more people are going to be willing to invest in you, basically, and they're going to know that you're a safe pair of hands and it's okay to spend their time and money and ego in your direction. So that's number 4. Number 5, fifth one is that you're not delivering your offer with complete confidence. So maybe they're just not 100% convinced that you're the person to help them with this, because maybe deep down you're not feeling completely confident that either this is the perfect offer that's really going to help that client, or that you are the right person to help them with this. And I found with this one that you can have everything else in place, but if your mind subconsciously is in a place where it's going, I just doubt myself that a little bit, what you'll find is you can put out tons and tons of sales posts and they just don't really quite hit home with people. It feels right, the copy's right, it should be selling, it should be absolutely perfect for your ideal client, but there's just something missing from it, and they can't quite put their finger on it. The clients probably couldn't tell you what it was, but they're just like, it's just not quite there, it's just not quite connecting with me. But when you are firmly in your belief, when you are absolutely lit up about your offer and you're just like, yeah, I know that this is the thing that's going to help you, this is fantastic for you, then that energy connects with them, and all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, you are the person to help me, I understand that now. So the way that we're feeling internally really projects onto our sales messaging and our sales process. So one of the best things you can do is just really work on that confidence, and make sure that if you're getting on sales calls or if you're putting out a sales post, that you get yourself in the frame of mind beforehand where you just know that what you're offering these people is absolutely perfect for them. And that's not to say you're getting on a sales call and saying, I'm going to convince this person that this thing's right for them, even if it's not, because that's never going to work. Firstly, it's not a good plan. Don't do that. And secondly, if you're thinking that subconsciously, like, yeah, I know this isn't quite right, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, then they're going to pick up on that, and it's not going to feel great. So just make sure you get yourself in the zone where you feel able to show up with complete honesty and integrity on that sales call. But if they are the right client for you, then you have no fears and no concerns in saying, yes, I think my service is exactly what you need right now. And that really, really helps. So hope those have been useful. I'd love to know in the chat if any of those have resonated with you, which one's your favourite point from the 5 things that we've talked about today. So I'll just recap them. The first one was about your audience not being quite the right audience, or not being quite large enough. The second one was about not selling enough, not mentioning your service or your offer enough times. Third one about your clients just not quite understanding how your offer can benefit them, just not being absolutely clear on their problems and on the transformation that you can deliver them. The fourth one is about there being maybe some unanswered questions or fears around your process, and then just not quite understanding how you're going to help them achieve that result. They're thinking, just going back to Greg and his wonderful strapline that I mentioned earlier, maybe if somebody was interested in his service and he wasn't talking to them about how exactly he would get them to drop that £20, they're thinking, what are you going to make me do? Are you going to have me running around the block like 500 times in a morning, or am I going to have to do 96 bench presses and squats every 5 minutes? Or the more you can explain exactly what happens, the less scary it is for them, because they're like, okay, I can see exactly what routine you're going to get me following. These are the kinds of things that we might be doing together. I can cope with that. I'm happy with that. Okay, and the fifth one was you're not delivering that offer with absolute complete confidence. So they're not convinced that you're the person to help them with this. Excuse me. Things like testimonials, of course, can really, really help you there. I hugely recommend you use lots of testimonials in your marketing. So, oh, I can see Karen. It's all about the hair today. Everybody loves the hair. Yay! Thank you. But yeah, let me know which one of those 5 resonates the most for you. A couple of questions, because this is also a little bit of a Q&A session. So this is your opportunity every month to put forward a question, something that you're struggling with or something that you just want a little bit of help around, and for me to give you some advice on that. So Leah mentioned, I think in relation to what we were just talking about there, that she feels like the commitment is a barrier to investment. So maybe on those sales calls, just getting no's rather than yeses. So when you say commitment, Leah, I'd love to have you dig down a little bit more into what the commitment is that they're struggling with. Is it the time thing? Is it the money? Is it that they just don't feel this is quite the right offer for them? If you've had lots of no's, then it can be worth just going back to people and saying, do you mind telling me what was it that sort of put you off investing right now? Do you know? Or just give them a little checkbox, you know, was it this, was it this, was it this? And sort of, yeah, surveying them and digging into those answers a bit can be really revealing and really helpful. And the more you can address those barriers in your marketing, so the more you can talk about how much time it takes and why that will really help them in the long run, why it's worth that investment of time, or the same thing for money, why it's going to help them make so much more money in their lives in future, for example. Those kinds of things can really help them to understand that actually it's not such a scary investment and it is quite sensible. So yeah, have a look into that and think about why the commitment isn't quite there. And if that's not quite clear, sometimes again it can just be that you're not sold on your offer yourself. You're not absolutely convinced that your offer is what you want to be putting out there for these people, or they're just not getting the message about why it's such a wonderful service. So see if you can dig into that a little bit more and just refine that messaging. Okay, hopefully that is really helpful. Sue says, thanks, really helpful, just got to find some time to really focus. Yeah, all good old time. Never enough of it in the day, is there? So I had one more question from Rashana. LinkedIn newsletters, is it worth it? Going slightly off today's topic, but that's fine. Q&As, it's absolutely fine to ask whatever you like, so fire away. LinkedIn newsletters, is it worth it? So my understanding is that yes, it's a great way to build your LinkedIn connections and get your message out there and get found on LinkedIn much more easily. I'm not a LinkedIn expert by any stretch, but I also gather that it's worth, if you're going to be publishing a newsletter, making that a blog on your own website as well, because what that will then do is help your website SEO and help you get found more easily, and help make your website more authoritative, more respected. And also, I think from my own experience, it's just much easier to share blog content off my own website than it is to direct people back to LinkedIn for those newsletters. So I guess your own blog is much more widely distributable and reusable. But yeah, I think LinkedIn newsletters are a great marketing strategy. There are so many ways that you can get your message out there. So it's just, if it works for you, if you enjoy publishing newsletters on there, then great, that's certainly worth looking at as part of your marketing picture. And it can help contact a lot of the right clients. But you probably want to examine your whole strategy and make sure that you felt you were covering enough bases for that. She also asks, downloadable freebie. She's created one of those. Haven't started the newsletter yet. Just can't get around to doing it. Tips for that. Tips to getting around to doing it. other than just crack on and do it. So have a real think about what's stopping you. Is it that deep down it doesn't feel like something you'll enjoy doing? That's very, very often a reason that people hold back on doing things. Is it not knowing how it fits in with your overall strategy? Is it sort of your brain just hasn't gone, I can put all the pieces of this puzzle together yet, and I really understand how this is going to benefit me? If it's that, then you might want to just sit down and plan out your strategy and see how it works with everything else that's in there. And what else have I put down there? Just put some notes down before to help me with this one. Just can't get around to doing it. Doing it. So yeah, why am I reading that over and over? That's hello brain. That's not working. Yeah, you might want to plan it in your diary. So if you're just not quite sure that you're kind of really committed to this, then I find often just making a specific window in your diary when you're going to tackle that newsletter every week, like I have an hour, that's when I'm going to write my newsletter, and it's going to happen without fail. Just making yourself commit to that sort of process can really, really just help you not wheedle out of it and find other things to do instead. It's also worth just really brainstorming the content that you might put into it, because another real mental block to starting something like a newsletter is we're just sitting there going, it feels so overwhelming, I don't know what I'm going to put in that newsletter, I'm not sure I can keep content going forever, I'm not sure I have enough ideas, and we can have that mental process going on in the background, stopping us from actually getting out there and doing it. So just having a good old brainstorm and just reminding yourself that actually you've got tons of ideas for this thing can be really helpful. I found that with my podcast. I was putting off starting it for a little while, and then I thought one day, I'll just sit down and look at the content ideas I have got together and see if I have enough to cover a few episodes. And I found that I had enough for 2 years worth of podcasts. So very often you've got content already published that you could use again and repurpose in the newsletter. Very often your brain's just telling you that you don't have anything to say when you've got plenty of stuff that you could put out there. So good brain dump without judgment, just let it all come out and see what you've got at the end of it. It can be super powerful. And the final thing might just be a bit of fear of getting it out there. So if that's a bit of a struggle, then it's worth examining that again and just looking into why you might be holding back on getting it out there. Is it a fear of judgment? Is it a lack of alignment with what you really want to be doing? So a lot of things to think about there. And if you want to message me about anything like that and just try and get a bit more clarity, then I would be totally happy to help you with that. So hopefully that has been helpful. Oh, I have one more message in the chat. Hello, lovely to have so many of you watching today. So I'm not quite sure that I'm going to pronounce this right. Is it Carola or Carola? Sorry if I've got it wrong. But I've got a new low-cost masterclass and bonus 5-day challenge, cool, on offer. How can I reach more people? What's a good way to reach more other audiences? Wonderful. So my first go-to would be just thinking about how you can connect with other people and leverage their audiences. If you've got something that you really want to get out there and distribute far and wide, who can you connect with that already has a good existing audience that isn't exactly the same as yours, but it really aligns with what you're doing, and they would be more than happy to have you perhaps as a guest speaker, a guest blogger, guesting on their podcast, any of those things where you're just directly able to communicate with other people's audiences and speak to them directly. It really helps encourage that trust thing, and also because you're doing that on somebody else's behalf, as it were, it reaffirms that they have trust in you as well. So the audience, their audience, is likely to trust you much more as well. So definitely that would be my go-to thing, is how can you connect with other people and leverage their audiences too. So yeah, a bit of brainstorming around that. Obviously things like PR are fantastic. I'm again by no means an expert on PR, but on Twitter I gather there is a a journo request hashtag. So if you have a look on journo request, you might just find that somebody who is out there at the moment is looking for a story on exactly what you're offering your masterclass about. So yeah, just connect with that. Just have a scroll through the journal request thing and see if there is anybody out there who's kind of looking for your expertise at the moment, and those kind of opportunities can be great for just getting your word out to a much wider audience really quickly. I'm assuming that timescale is quite important here, so that's why I'm going for like quick fire options. Hopefully those help, but if you feel like it's a longer term thing as well, that you want to work on just generally growing your audience as well, then again, post in the comments and we can brainstorm a few other ideas that might help you too. So we'll leave it there, I think, for today, but fab to have you all watching. Thank you so much. Really great to be here, and I hope that's been really helpful. Let me know in the comments what your best bits were. If anything today has really resonated with you, and if you'd like some regular coaching to help with that, then just get in touch. We have a membership, the Flow and Flourish Business Academy, and in there we can really help you to work through issues like this and create a really clear offer and market it with confidence and get it out there, and with complete integrity too, because that's a hugely important thing for me and for Sarah, who's my co-host in the membership. This week we're running a workshop, which is a workshop to help you craft your perfect elevator pitch. So as I was mentioning Greg's lovely pitch there about helping professional women drop 20 pounds, getting you a message that is really clear and concise and cutting out all the fluff and ambiguity so that you can just deliver it with confidence and get that message known, get it out there to your audience and other people's audiences, and attract those perfect clients. So that workshop's happening on Thursday. The membership is free for the first 14 days. So if you want to kind of dive in and see what that's all about and come and join our workshop without any kind of obligation, without even having to pay or put your credit card details in, then just like jump in and give it a go and see what you think. We also have monthly group coaching sessions in there, as well as things like regular social sessions, marketing prompts, accountability sessions, and loads more stuff as well. So if you need that support from people who really care and have been there and done the whole thing and know what we're talking about, then this is perfect for you. So as I say, completely free 14-day trial. Give it a go, see what you think. And if you do decide that going forward you want to join us, then it ends up being £49 a month, which is not bad for business coaching and a wonderful supportive community. So yeah, love to see some of you there. Pop in and give us a try. I'll post the details in the comments, and can't wait to see you. And I'll be back in a month for the next clinic. So take care. See you all soon.